right, so in this video, we're gonna be making some chorizo sausage, and kind of what we did to get going, obviously quartered the animal, got it deboned, cubed up all the meat so it can absorb all that marinade, got the seasonings on there, gave it a good mix, and then we threw it in the fridge overnight just to let all that salt and seasoning soak into the meat only. And today is grind day, and we're gonna grind up all these meat chunks, we're gonna grind up all this fat, and we're keeping everything as cool as we possibly can. So, you know, this stuff just came out of the fridge. I had the head of my grinder sitting in the freezer all night, and we're gonna just quickly do this grind, get this back into the freezer, get our ground meat back into the fridge after we mix it in the mixer, and keep it nice and cool until we're ready to get the stuffing done. It is very important to keep your sausage as cool as possible through the whole process. It is gonna make your end product a lot better. So without further ado, let's get to grinding this up. I'm just gonna start with 5 pounds of beef fat. We have 15 pounds of chorizo, so we're gonna stick with a 25% fat to meat mix. And yeah, we'll get that fat ground up now. So yeah, now we'll get started on mixing up the actual meat with the chorizo seasoning. And we cut these into 1-inch, 2-inch cubes, something like that, just to get it to be able to evenly distribute all those seasonings through the night. And now between grinding it all together and then mixing in the mixer with the fat, does a couple things. One is it agitates, you know, you can mix it a lot less because you're not trying to get a seasoning mix into the meat. So your sausage consistency on the tail end of this is gonna come out a lot better, and ultimately you're gonna have a lot better mix of the seasonings in your final product. So here we go. All right, so that's a wrap on the grind. So up next, we're just gonna throw it in the mixer and get that fat really turned into the meat and then onto the stuffer. All right, so we're just gonna load this chorizo into the hopper of this 50-pound mixer, get to mixing this up. We already have the seasonings put in and marinated into the meat, and we've put the fat in as well to get mixed up. Kind of the final thing that we need to add here is just some really, really cold ice water as we're going here. So I kind of got to feel this out a little bit, but it's going to end up being, you know, 4 to 6 cups, something like that for a 20-pound allotment of meat. And I am just going to kind of feel this out a little bit as I'm watching it in the mixture. And you don't want it, you know, really watery, but you do want, I guess, a little bit of moisture in there to help with the mix and also help when you put it into the stuffer if you're going to do that. So, but this will just kind of really even out all of the seasonings. You know, I don't mix my fat and my meat before the marinade because fat doesn't really absorb seasoning. It'll absorb smoke, but it won't absorb seasoning all that well, and it does not absorb salt. So adding those in, I just prefer the texture of the end result when I add the pork fat or beef fat mix right there at the end during the mix and then get it right into the casings. I also kind of like the attractive look of it when it's in the casing before you cook it. It's the small things, you know, but yeah, without further ado, let's get this thing mixing. All right, so I just finished the mix here, and kind of what I look for as my end result after the mix is that I just want that fat to be nice and evenly distributed through the meat, and kind of to the point where it's just starting to get tacky. And what's happening with that tackiness is the protein's separating a bit from the meat itself, and it's making kind of a tacky feel. There is such thing as over mixing it also. My recommendation when you're at least beginning and mixing at home is, you know, walk before you run. So just go up to the point where you feel like it's evenly mixed, but don't just keep turning it and turning it and turning it and turning it until it's just an emulsified wad. Unless you're making emulsified sausage, then that's a whole other process we'll get into in a different video. But for this fresh sausage like this, we got about the mix we're looking for. Now that we have the mixing done with this chorizo, we're gonna tilt the hopper on this mixer and get it loaded into the stuffer and stuff it into 1-pound burger bags, get it labeled and get it in the freezer. One really cool thing about this mixer is this function right here. Seems like a little thing, but It certainly is a lot easier to get it unloaded when you can tilt it sideways.